bevo.com.
Ken, one of your most famous books was like, well, there's a lot of them, but if we can just pick on Raving Fans for a minute. Can we just ask, first of all, a very open question? It's rather embarrassing, but how do you create Raving Fans, Ken?
Well, Raving Fans says that satisfying your customers is not enough. What you got to do is create a situation where they go, whoa, I can't quite believe that, you know. And sometimes it's not a real complicated thing. For example, I'm blown away when I ask for a wake-up call in a hotel and I get a human being, you know, because the most common wake-up call, you pick the phone up and there's nobody there, but they rang the phone. Second most common is you get, you know, a recording, and usually in the middle of it, but you're just blown away when you get a human being. I remember going to a hotel in Orlando, Florida one time, a big Marriott, and I asked for a 7 o'clock wake up, and this woman rang the phone and said, "Good morning, Dr. Blanchard, it's 7 o'clock. It's going to be 75 and beautiful today, but your ticket says you're leaving. Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to New York City." She said, "New York City? I got the USA Today weather map here. Let me look." "Oh, no, it's going to be 40 and rainy in New York. Can't you stay another day?" I mean, so that's just so unusual. Sheldon Bowles, who I wrote the book with, in the 1970s, when everybody was going to self-service gasoline, he said, "What a fabulous time for full service, because there'll be no competition." And what he did is he wanted to create a special thing, because he knew that nobody wanted to go to the gas station if they didn't have to. So he hired a bunch of housewives and retirees and all, that maybe work 4 hours a day, and he dressed them up in red jumpsuits. And his whole goal was that when you came in there was like a pit stop at Monte Carlo, you know, and you know, these people would race at your car, and somebody under the hood, somebody pumping gas, somebody open the door, ask you to step out and give you a cup of coffee and a newspaper and dust bust your car. I mean, he just created Raving Fans. So it's constantly saying, what can we do? And we interact with our customers in a way that just blows them away. You know, I mean, like Southwest Airlines, which is only flies in the U.S., but you know, how many times have you called an airline and you get these recordings, you know, and they said, "I'm sorry, all the line is busy, you know, and we'll be with you," and then they throw on the music and all. You call Southwest, and if they usually have a human being answer, but if they're not, you say, that says, "I'm sorry, everybody's busy. At the beep, leave your name and your telephone number, and we'll get back to you in 10 minutes. And so you hang up, and you can go and do other things. All of a sudden, your phone rings, and it says, "Ken Blanchard, Southwest Airlines, how can we help you?" Whoa, you know, I mean, so that's just that, doing that little extra that just blows people's mind.
So sort of really thinking about the ideal customer experience,
yes,
and then working back from that, and then just incorporating it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, your cabbies are wonderful here in London, you know, compared to a lot of. But I tell you, I ran into a cabbie one time that just blew my mind, you know, because, you know, he charges around, you know, and his car looked like it was clean, and, you know, this is New York City, and he said, "Hi, my name's Harold, I'm your cab driver, and while I'm putting your bags in the car, here's my mission statement." Gave me a card with a mission statement, you know. It's Harold's, you know, mission to get you to your location in the quickest, safest, cheapest way possible within a friendly environment. You know, and I go, "Oh, you know," and then you get in the car, and here's a guy, you know, who says, "I got, you know, Coke, I got 7-Up, I got water and all, what would you like to drink," you know, and I got, you know, 2 or 3 newspapers, you know, I mean, this guy just, you know, and I said, "How long have you been doing this, you know?" And he said, you know, about a year and a half. I said, "What did you do before?" He said, "I was like everybody else, complaining, too many cabs and all that." And I just looked around, and everybody was not taking care of customers, and they were complaining when they didn't get tips, you know.
Right.
And your cabbies here are just very friendly, and they're incredibly knowledgeable, because it takes a long while to get to be a cab, because I think they're your ambassadors, you know, and so people really could learn a lot from that, you know. So I'm a raving fan of the cab service in England, and I think that's, again, what can we do to be different?
Yeah, yeah. And I bet that cabbie in New York was his one of his values, which you say is allowed, it's just got to be ranked, is generating profit, because I bet you he had more tips than anybody else.
Absolutely, sure. And so why wouldn't
Why
you?
wouldn't?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. You also talk about moments of truth. Sort of, I think that when you say that, do you mean sort of points of contact with customers? Is that what moments of truth?
It's a Jan Carlson concept. He was the president of Scandinavian Airline System in the 1980s and kind of turned that airline around. And he said, we're not going to beat the competition because we have good airplanes. If we don't have good airplanes, we're not even in the game. So you're not going to beat the competition because you have a good product. If you don't have a good product, you're not in the game. He said, we're not going to beat the competition because we have the lowest price. You don't want to get in a price war. But we're going to beat the competition on moment's truth, which is any time a customer comes in contact with your organization in the way they can get an impression. That's a moment of truth. And each department in an organization needs to look at what are our customer contacts. And it's not just external touch customers, because personnel has internal customers, and yet a lot of personnel departments in companies act like the people are the enemy, rather than their customers and all. And so how do you manage those moments of truth in a different way? If you walk in our corporate headquarters in California, the main building, there's a desk there where we have 2 or 3 operators answering the phone and greeting people, and it says in the counter, directors of first impressions. And they think that that's their job. And you can't get into voicemail in our company unless you ask for it. We have a human being answers the phone, because we think that's an important moment of truth, where a lot of companies don't. I think they're pound wise and a penny foolish by having machines answer their phones and frustrate their customers.
How important is it to get that culture by making sure you hire, what you were talking about between eagles and ducks before, making sure you're hiring the eagles as opposed to the ducks in the first place, do you think?
Well, I think that's really important. You can hire for skill or character, and I think you can train for skills, but you need to have people who have that kind of servant attitude and all. And I think that's so interesting in Southwest Airlines. When they interview a frontline employee, they televise the interview. They tape the interview, but they don't tape the person. They tape the people that are interviewing them, because they want to see how they're responding to them.
How am I doing with you?
We would have to see whether we'd hire you, because you've got a good smiling face, and But what it would say is, how are you responding to me, which is more important than putting the camera on me.
Right.
And so, I think you have to hire people that get a kick out of serving people, and then give them the training and the skills to do it.
You talk about making sure that you've got raving fans in the organization, you've got the ideal experience, but you still have to link it back to the systems and energizing systems, is that right?
Absolutely. If you have an organization that's big on rules and regulations and policies and all, and everybody's got to follow them to the order, then you got a problem. What you want is, policies should be guidelines, but you want your people to use their brains before they use rules, regulations, or policies, and so that there could be exceptions, and people need to be able to know that they can bring their brains to work, and the customer knows that, wow, this person's a problem solver.
You've given us so many insights today, and I know I've been a raving fan of yours for a very long time. I've watched your DVDs and CDs and things, and so thank you very much for that. If people want to follow up and get in contact with you or get more information from your companies, how would they go about doing that? Well,
here in the UK, they can call the Ken Blanchard companies, and California and all, and they can go on a website, kenblanchard.com, which refers to all of our sites around the world. And when you call our people, their first question is to try to find out, what are you working on? What do you need help on? Because we don't have program and we'll jam it down your throat. We're constantly saying, what is your issue? Because one of the things is that we can help companies in so many different ways around the whole vision and direction, around customers, around their people, around leadership training, team building, all of those kinds of things. So it's really been exciting. Our whole goal is to make the behavioral sciences come alive so that organizations are really make a difference. We want to help people and organizations lead at a higher level.